everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to you another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And April 3rd, 2005 marks 20 years ago that history was made at WrestleMania 21 when Batista defeated Triple H in the main event to become the new World Heavyweight Champion and thus going on to become one of the biggest stars in the Ruthless Aggression era. And for today's special edition, I am going to be discussing the success and failures of Batista's World Heavyweight Championship run from April 2005 to January 2006. So, after winning the Royal Rumble 2005 match, Batista made his decision and decided to stay on Raw and challenge Triple H for the world title in the main event at WrestleMania 21, thus turning on Evolution and becoming a babyface. And after a hard hitting match, Batista defeated Triple H and pinned him 1, 2, 3 to become the new World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 21. And he would go on to defeat Triple H two more times, once at Backlash 2005 to retain his world title, and then at Vengeance 2005 to retain his world title in a Hell in a Cell match, thus bringing their feud to a close. And then Batista, as the World Heavyweight Champion, would be drafted to SmackDown, where he would go on to have a feud with JBL. And Batista, even though he retained his world title at the Great American Bash 2005, JBL picked up the win via disqualification after Batista nailed JBL with a steel chair. And then they would go on to have a no holds barred match at SummerSlam 2005, where Batista defeated JBL to retain his world title. And then they would have a final match on SmackDown, where Batista defeated JBL in a Texas Bull Rope match. Now, what I noticed during Batista's first reign as world champion was the quality of his opponents. Now, Triple H, it goes without saying, he is one of the biggest names ever in the company and one of the greatest heels of all time. And their trilogy of matches, apart from the Hell in a Cell at Vengeance 2005, which I thought was excellent, I found most of the other matches in their trilogy to be quite slow and boring. But I won't deny that those matches did feel like a big deal. And for Batista to get three straight wins over Triple H is quite an amazing accomplishment. There's not many wrestlers out there that can say they got three straight wins over the game at three straight pay per views. Obviously, you had guys like Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, they would get wins, but it wouldn't be straight. Shawn Michaels got two straight wins over Triple H. Undertaker, on the other hand, while he did get quite a few wins over Triple H, it wasn't straight pay per views. It would be like face each other one time at a pay per view, then they would face the following year, and Undertaker would get another win. To get three straight wins over Triple H was a big deal. And their feud was excellent. The build up, the payoff, the storytelling, everything about it was done to perfection. And a lot of that goes to Triple H for putting over Batista so strong. And JBL, on the other hand, those matches didn't set the world on fire with me. They were okay, but I just found them quite boring. And you look at Triple H and JBL as heels, both completely different. Triple H was the evil heel who was obsessed with being world champion and was driven to be the best, and he didn't care how he got to the top as long as he got there. And he was the guy that everyone paid to see get murdered. JBL, on the other hand, he was the more obnoxious, annoying, arrogant heel, kind of like a throwback to the old school heels of the 80s and early 90s. He was the self made billionaire. And whereas the fans hated Triple H, they respected him and to a point liked him. With JBL, fans just didn't like him. They despised him. They just absolutely hated him and just thought he was an absolute idiot. And after Batista was done with JBL, he went into a very entertaining program against the late great Eddie Guerrero, and they would have a great match at No Mercy 2005. Now, their feud or story, whatever you want to call it, was very entertaining because they were friends. But there was always this thing about Eddie Guerrero about it. Could he turn on Batista? Even though he would openly say, I'm your best friend, you're like a brother to me. But we all knew deep down that at some point Latino Heat was going to stab Batista in the back. And it was a great build up. I enjoyed it. I wished we got more. It saddens me that we only got one Batista versus Eddie Guerrero match, but that one match we did get was very good. I quite enjoyed that. And from a wrestling point of view, I thought it was excellent. And, you know, Eddie Guerrero, no disrespect to JBL and Triple H, Eddie Guerrero, what can you say really? One of the greatest wrestlers in the world and so technically sound. He could do it all. He was so good in the ring. And for me, technically, he's leagues above JBL and Triple H. Triple H might be the bigger name, might be the better heel, depending on who you ask. JBL, he's a good brawler, but he wasn't a great wrestler. Eddie Guerrero was a fantastic wrestler, one of the best in the world. So, anytime you put Eddie Guerrero in the ring, you know you're going to get a good match. And he got a good match out of Batista. It was a really good match. I did read somewhere that before Eddie passed away, he was going to defeat Batista on SmackDown to become world champion. So he probably would have turned on him eventually. But sadly, Eddie passed away before anything could happen. And I believe he was going to be part of the Survivor Series team for SmackDown. But unfortunately, that didn't happen either. But Randy Orton replaced him. So good replacement there, but I would have liked to have seen more from Eddie and Batista. They had such great chemistry. And throughout the rest of 2005, he would go on to defeat Jonathan Coachman in a squash match at Taboo Tuesday 2005. He was a big part of the brand war between Raw versus SmackDown leading up to Survivor Series 2005. And then he would win the tag team titles with Rey Mysterio, and then they would face Big Show and Kane in an interpromotional tag match at Armageddon 2005. And then heading into 2006, Batista would get taken out by Mark Henry. This was done to get Batista off TV because he tore his triceps and he forfeited the world title on SmackDown and he would not return until before the Great American Bash 2006. Now, another thing that I did hear was that Randy Orton was meant to defeat Batista at WrestleMania 22, but plans got changed because of Orton's bad behavior or something like that, and obviously Batista getting injured. But the first world title reign of Batista was enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. He looked dominant, he looked the part, he was a real animal, no pun intended, and I would have liked to have seen him defend the world title more on pay per view, but the few times that he did, he delivered. And as I said, the quality of opponents was up and down. I think from a wrestling point of view, Eddie Guerrero was technically the best opponent, but as far as like bigger name, star power wise is concerned, I have to go with Triple H because he's the bigger name. So as far as whether or not Batista's first world title reign was a success or failure, I'm going to probably say it was successful. It was a complete success. Maybe not as successful as John Cena's, because they were booked differently, but it was still successful. I still enjoyed it, and it really put over Batista huge. I think those first couple of bumps when he defeated Triple H, he was red hot as champion. But I think when he got drafted to SmackDown, he was still red hot, but I think it's kind of cooled off a little bit because prior to him going to SmackDown, he was riding a massive wave of popularity. He was super over. And I'm not saying that he wasn't over on SmackDown. He really was. He was super loved. I mean, I still remember that when Batista forfeited the title due to his tricep injury. There were a few people who were crying their eyes out. So it just shows you that he was really loved. But at the same time, you know, his world title reign, his first one, it was successful, but I think the quality of opponents was just up and down. No fault of his, obviously, but I think he was just booked differently. And I think maybe if he had the same type of booking that John Cena had, maybe it would have gone on to become even more successful. But I think him winning the world title from Triple H cemented his position, and it was the right call to make. I'm not taking anything away from that. You know, they had to put the world title on him because he was so loved, and WWE clearly learned their mistake from Randy Orton's babyface run from 2004 to early 2005. So they took their time, and him winning the title in the main event paid off beautifully. But yeah, it was a complete success, but I think it could have been a bit more. The Triple H feud was excellent. The matches were all right, bit boring and slow, but I did love the Hell in a Cell. The JBL matches I didn't care for. I thought they were boring. But the match with Eddie Guerrero at No Mercy 2005 was excellent because Eddie Guerrero, you can't go wrong with him. So yeah, I would say complete success in my opinion. The only failure I would say is that Batista had to forfeit the title, which wasn't his fault. I would have liked to have seen who would have defeated him for the world title if he didn't get hurt. Obviously, he would have walked into WrestleMania 22 as the champion. Who he would have faced could have been Randy Orton. Would he have dropped the title to Orton? Maybe, maybe not. Speculation, but we'll never know. So, anyway, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of Batista's World Championship run from 2005 to 2006? Did you enjoy it? What was your favourite match from that first reign? Was it WrestleMania 21 against Triple H? Or was it Backlash 2005? Or Vengeance 2005 in the Hell in a Cell match? Did you like the matches against JBL at Great American Bash and SummerSlam 2005? Or did you like Batista versus Eddie Guerrero at No Mercy 2005? And what did you think of his first world title reign? Did you think it was a success or a failure? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.